Hi friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. So the Fed just concluded their meeting and essentially no rate cut. I want to go over some of the updates on that and also two updates from the stock market. So let me read some headlines first. You can start with this. This says there, Powell says Fed could cut rates as soon as September meeting. It's on the table, not a sure thing, but the market sure definitely wants it to be a sure thing. Up next, Meta sales beat estimates on advertising growth. Shares jump. So if you're curious if Zuckerberg and the team are making money, the answer is yes. Yes, they are. Another one, NVIDIA adds record $329 billion in value as volatility soars. So essentially, Morgan Stanley came out and said, hey everyone, NVIDIA is awesome. But remember, Morgan Stanley also said, hey everyone, Tesla is awesome. But on top of that though, we had some earnings from AMD, which helped fuel optimism for NVIDIA. However, I want to point you out to this particular chart here. This shows, in my opinion, and it's not just an opinion, it's backed up by numbers, that the markets are juiced. Take a look at this. So this is the 10 biggest single day market cap gains, meaning in one day, NVIDIA set a record to how much money they added to their value. It was like 329 billion. We're talking about quite a bit of money here. That's on July 31st, 2024. But you can see a lot of these moves in terms of like single day moves in a stock have all been recently, right? 24, 24, 24, a couple in 22, and some in 23. And these are all the big companies, NVIDIA, Apple, Meta, and Google and Amazon. So some crazy stuff in the market, but I think this is an indication of our markets are juiced and we have this crazy volatility, which is frankly unhealthy. I mean, one day NVIDIA, which is like a mega cap company, is down like what, 7%. The next day it pops up like 12%. So is that normal? No, it's not. Take a look at this. This is another one. Bill Ackman abruptly withdraws IPO of Pershing Square US fund. Now this is actually really interesting because he's one of your fund managers out there and he's like, yo, I'm gonna IPO, everyone can buy into my company, this is awesome. And then he like changes his mind. So he may be seeing something in the markets to where he doesn't feel like the money is there to buy his IPO. And this is the thing that's strange is you're getting mixed signals. You're getting like this crazy amount of money going into NVIDIA, right? It just came out, now it's going back in. And then you're thinking, okay, are the markets juiced? Is the Fed going to cut rates and are we on a new bull run? And then you get this thing like, Ackman's like, whoa, wait, hold your horses here. No more IPO. I don't think the money's there. Then you have this, and this is part of the sort of, how can I say, global milieu that we're in right now. I just want to read some of the headlines here. Iran vows revenge as it accuses Israel of killing off Hamas political leader. Right now you have tit for tat. Essentially, Israel kills someone and then the other side, and I say other side because there's more than just one side against Israel at the moment here. We'll kill someone and then it goes back and forth, and the worry is escalation. Now, Iran does talk quite a bit, and oftentimes they back down, so we'll see. Last time I think that they sent a whole bunch of like missiles and Israel shot a whole bunch of these things down, and it may be a similar kind of thing. And how can I say, I don't ever want to downplay the seriousness of this kind of stuff because you are talking about people's lives. So I want to make sure that that's clear. How can I say, I get really frustrated with the global tensions here, and obviously I want things to cool, but solving the Middle East problem isn't really that simple. As you know, there's a lot of money involved online. There's a very valuable resource in the region, obviously oil, and something this is what we want to keep track of. I'll just say this, let's hope tensions cool, and I'll leave it at that. But unfortunately, we have other things going on in the global world, and this is what I'm sharing with you guys, because this does relate to market. You got to pay attention to stuff. Headline, Venezuela election results remain unverified as tensions rise. You guys have probably been seeing over there. There's been protesters taken to the streets. It's just unstable. And put on top of that, it's not just Venezuela. You have actually a riot in the UK. Read this. 4 arrested after 53 police officers injured in Southport riots. I guess there's some sort of misinformation going on over there. There was a stabbing, but again, I want tensions to cool off. And if you're in the UK, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. I read a little bit about that. The whole thing sounds bad. Moreover, we have this last headline here. I'll show you. To have and have nots at the center of America's inflation fight. And this is essentially talking about the wealth gap that unfortunately is going to keep getting wider and wider in the US. But it's not just USA, it's many places around the world. And let me give you the basic gist of it. If you have money in the market, right? say you look at your account today and you're like, oh my God, Meta's doing great, Nvidia rebounded, right? I'm up 40% on the year, fantastic. However, there are people who don't have any money in the market, right? So, they don't watch my videos, they don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. And all they do is they go to the grocery store and they say, oh my God, look at the price of milk, look at the price of eggs, look at the price of apples, it's up 40%. And so you sort of have a disconnect between, say, what's happening in the market, people who are benefiting from those kind of things, or say from people who have just money in your basic, savings accounts, et cetera, who see interest rates go up and you're like, oh, look at all this great, returns I'm getting on my savings account now. That used to be 0, and now it's like 3 and 4%. But then in the reverse, you might have people who are underwater. They're like, oh my God, look at my credit card debt, and the interest rates keep going up on that thing, and now it's like 25%, and I just, can barely make it. Put on top of that, you got, your mortgages, your rents, your insurance costs, all these kind of things. So I think the gap is going to keep getting wider and wider. One of the things that federal Chair Powell is looking at, and we're all looking at as well, is like, what's unemployment doing? What's the labor market doing? And a simple way to think about it is like this. So if companies need workers, right, and there's not enough workers, you raise wages. You're like, we got to find people. We can't find anyone at this low wage, so we're going to have to raise our wages to get people. When unemployment goes up, you get a lot of people essentially a little bit more, desperate, you could say, looking for work. And employees don't necessarily have to raise wages to, get people. There's plenty of people sitting on the bench. That's the best way to think about it. And, even if, say, for example, inflation cools, part of that's going to be that there's going to be a lot of people unemployed. We're seeing that in various companies and in various industries, that it's just what it is. That things are slowing down, and like companies don't need to have so many people on staff. Or there's another thing that we talk about, which I want you to understand, like all these things go into play. Say company, because someone has wrote in a comment, say, Chris, I believe the AI thing is real. My company, I work at, I think the person said a distribution company or something like that, or a logistics company, they might have said. And they said, my company is investing a whole bunch of money into automation AI. And, I'm thinking, okay, because the argument is like, hey, look at all the AI, stocks and benefits are going to go up, et cetera. But I'm also thinking like, hey, think of all the jobs that are going to like disappear or no longer exist, right? And so you have this disconnect. The people who are benefiting from, say, the AI revolution, maybe, for example, your Nvidia stock is going like crazy today, you're going to be like, oh my God, look how much money I have. But then you have people who are completely not benefiting from that at all. They're just like, well, I don't have any Nvidia stock and I'm out of a job. And so you have this disconnect. And so why am I mentioning the global tension and stuff like that? It's part of it, right? So guys, like when I see what's happening in the UK, when I see what's happening in, say, Venezuela or between Israel and Iran, and I know it's, when you talk about global, events and global politics, it gets really, really complicated. But trust me, I know. But the thing that I think about, and this is something my wife, that we always talk about all the time when we turn around and flip on the news all the time, is like, I'm happy we live in a safe environment. That's literally what we say. We're not freaking out all the time. You guys can see where we live. It's pretty calm and peaceful here, and I'm out in the morning, and basically a lot of old people are out for a walk and exercise, these kind of things. And that sort of, it's not that I don't care about what's happening around the world. I do, but what's the right way to put it? I want to put myself in an environment, in a situation to where I can take care of the people around me and take care of my family. And the reason why I'm mentioning it to you guys is that's why you want to plan well with your money. That's why you want to invest, so you can move your family and yourself to a place to where you're going to be safe. This is not about scaring you like that. It's just being practical. And so, for me, I know how it is, guys. I really know. Every time I look at the U.S. news, it's like everything's melting down all the time, and people are fighting, etc. I think part of that is people have like crazy economic, struggles and tension, right? Not everybody, but I'll just say people, because it's hard to know exactly which percentage of people are struggling. Yes, I do see the numbers, and I can see like that there's a large portion of Americans who essentially half their income goes to shelter, which is really much too high. But everyone's going to handle that differently, and also too, everyone's going to decide like how are they going to deal with that, right? So like, am I going to work hard and try to get a better job to meet the current demands of, say, the housing market, right? So in order to pay those high prices, or am I going to get really, really mad and just kick and scream all day, right? That kind of thing. Or unfortunately, in USA, you have a large rise of substance abuse, and you guys know the kind of stuff I'm talking about, like your fentanyls and that kind of thing. It's a real problem. And I, you know, I what's the right word to say? I don't want you to fall into that abyss. And it is an abyss, because essentially then you go through all these social media channels that basically blame other people all the time. That really is what much of social media is for people who are miserable and they're looking for someone to blame, they're looking for a finger to point. I don't really think that way. In my opinion, I just think, okay, you know, I can't control all the craziest in the world. I can't. I follow it, I know what's happening, but in my opinion, what can I do? I can move myself into a positive environment. I can make sure that my finances are okay and that I'm doing fine. And it doesn't mean you have to go to Korea. You don't have to come here. Like, you know, it doesn't mean you have to. There's, you know, the only place to go in the world. But certainly, if you say you're in the USA or maybe you're in Australia or UK or whatever, you want to figure out, okay, how can I get myself into a situation to where I have a job that I'm not stressing out, looking over my shoulder all the time whether or not my boss is going to fire me, and I'm in an environment, a neighborhood to where I feel safe. And honestly, for me right now, I think that should be the top priority of everyone, because the world does feel a little bit unstable. And what's crazy to me is like, I look around the YouTube environment, and I won't mention names, but I'll just say a lot of people out there like really, really overextend themselves, right? And the things that they're buying essentially on credit. And when you do that kind of stuff, like, you add so much pressure on yourself. Let's say, you know, for example, I go out and I buy, you know, my 4 or 5 houses to build up my Airbnb empire, because I'm going to make so much money on Airbnb, right? and you know, I go in massive debt in order to do that. And this is something like, for example, the Paris Olympics. I you know, have my prices set a certain way, and everyone's all this hype that, oh my God, we're gonna make so much money in the Olympics. And then there's this like massive raise in prices because everyone thinks they're gonna make so much money and they're gonna gouge all the customers coming in. And then suddenly people don't show up, and that's what's happening in the Paris Olympics like now. Like things didn't work out as planned, and this sort of leaves you holding the bag. And you know, what I'm saying is a couple things is put yourself in a mindset to where, hey guys, I want you to be positive, I want you to be optimistic about the future, but don't do it in a way to where it completely overextend yourself. And if you're wrong on essentially your bet / guess, you're going to be stressing out every day, pulling out your hair, etc. And unfortunately, that is the culture that you see on YouTube. And it is entertaining to watch people pull out their hair. I get that. But if you look at, you know, many of the channels, we'll use the example of the big fat guy, the boogie guy. You guys know who that is. And he melts down for all kinds of reasons and stuff like that. But, you know, these kind of people, they how can I say, they get really stressed out by trying to keep up the facade. And that's essentially, that's the situation that they put them in. And, you know, there's any numerous amount of financial YouTubers I could mention to you guys about, but I think you guys probably get the point of that. And so don't overextend yourself in this environment. If you got extra money, save it, invest it, right? Start building up a stockpile so that you can move you and your family into a place that's safe and secure, and think about sustainability for the future. So that's my opinion on these things. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you all in the next video.